Hello and welcome to Islamic Finance Weekly. I am Rahma Say Muhammad. Last week we were out on the streets of Lagos asking Lagosians if they know what sukuk is or they just see it on the road without actually paying attention to it or knowing what it actually stands for.
No. Okay, yeah. I think I just passed one. Yeah.
I just normally see them on the notice board as well. Sure.
I don't know the meaning.
But you dey see am.
I dey see am.
I see it here and I see it at Atlantic Beach side.
And today, we decided to bring in an expert in the non-interest finance space and especially on Sukuk to discuss on how Nigeria can leverage Sukuk for socio-economic growth and also enlighten the public on what Sukuk is. Joining me virtually today on the show is Attahiru Mohammed Maccido, the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer One17 Capital Limited. Assalamu alaikum. Hello, sir. Welcome on the show.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's my pleasure being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing this with us. Like I told you earlier, or as we were discussing earlier, we're talking about the public's view and public's knowledge on what sukuk is. I mean, a lot of people do not know what this term stands for or what it actually or how valuable it is to the country at large. So to begin our discussion today, we're going to, tell or understand what the concept of sukuk is.
Thank you so much, Rahma, for having me on this once again. With respect to the sukuk, it's something that we've been hearing from many people, especially if we are conducting a training on sukuk specifically, structuring of sukuk, we ask people, especially our audience, what do they understand with sukuk? And we heard different answers. Some are saying it's a specialized Islamic bank meant for only financing roads. Some are saying it's a construction company that is specialized in construction of roads. And we heard all these ones. But however, actually Sukuk is neither of all these things that we mentioned. Sukuk specifically is a financial instrument, Sharia compliant bond, as we know in a conventional bond, that government or corporate organizations goes to the capital market in order to raise money from the capital market, and they issue a certificate called bond, where it is an IOU. Now, with respect to that particular bond, it is interest-driven instrument. And as a result of that, many people, based on their faith, based on their values, they don't want to participate in such kind of bond because of the religious issues to do with usury, interest, or riba, as we all call it in different nomenclatures. Now, but however, those people that were actually excluded are there, they cannot invest. So Sukuk is a Sharia compliant Islamic bond. And specifically, according to Accounting and Auditing Organization of Islamic Financial Institutions, IOFI, which is a standard status of this particular Islamic finance based in Bahrain, they defined Sukuk as a certificate of equal value, evidencing ownership on a project or a business in that kind of aspect, meaning whoever actually subscribed to a sukuk, he is part owner of that particular project that the sukuk proceeds are being used in order to finance. And therefore, the federal government of Nigeria decided, instead of coming to do bond as they usually do, they came to issue sukuk, and strictly because sukuk has to be tied to a particular asset, so they decided to tie it down to a particular roads in all the 6 geopolitical zones in the country, and they use that proceeds to finance the roads. And that is why wherever you see a particular name tag or a poster that is saying this is where the Sukuk road started and this is where the Sukuk road ended, meaning the money that federal government raised are used in order to construct, renovate these particular roads that have been identified in all the 6 geopolitical zones. I hope at least briefly this can give a little light to those people that are giving the Sukuk different definitions than what it is. Thank you.
Actually, thank you so much for that. I'm sure people that didn't know would be able to tell what Sukuk actually means. Thank you for that brief introduction. So since 2017, Nigeria has issued sovereign sukuk of more than about 1 trillion naira addressing road infrastructure projects around the country. And what are the opportunities to diversify, the sukuk into impact projects like education, healthcare, and housing, other than road infrastructure?
Thank you so much once again. I was actually opportune to be among the team that provided consultancy to the federal government of Nigeria through the debt management office with a company called Burak Capital, where I also sit as a board member. Now, with respect to that Burak Capital, actually we advise federal government on all the sukuk that has been issued so far to date, about 6 different sukuk. And in our earlier meetings with the debt management office, we found out from them that they want to strictly use the proceeds in order to do the construction of roads, specifically because roads are going to be visible and very seen by everybody in all the 6 geopolitical zones in the country. And as a result of that, they've decided to go there. However, in our explanation to them, we explained to them it's not supposed to be only for roads. If they want, they can go for any other infrastructure, be it educational, be it health, be it other infrastructure they want. And of course, historically, we even see in Nigeria specifically, Osun State government, they came to issue sukuk in 2013. And again, I was privy to be part of the team that also did that one in 2013. While I was head of financial, I was CEO of Lotus Financial Services. We structured that sukuk for the construction of schools in most of the local governments in Osun State, where they came to raise 10 billion and they were able to get 11.4 billion in 2013 October precisely. So it shows that it's not only roads, it can be into the airports, it can be into healthcare, it can be into education, it can be into any infrastructure that government wants to use actually. So I believe it's something, because we are just starting with this one, federal government gradually will understand it and go to others. And also let me let you know that the family homes sukuk also issued the 30 billion sukuk to construct houses, affordable houses. Again, it's another example that we have in our market here in Nigeria. So we at least witnessed the housing, we witnessed the schools, and now we are witnessing the roads by the sovereign issuances, even with respect to the roads.
Yes. Thank you so much for that. I'm glad you're able to, convince or pitch out your ideas of diversifying into other infrastructures rather than just the road. So moving on, as an industry leader, in the non-interest finance sector, is Nigeria actually walking the talk of emerging the leader in sukuk issuances in Africa? I mean, what can be learned from Malaysia and Saudi Arabia thus far?
Well, with respect to Nigeria in the context of Africa, yes, so far Nigeria issued 6 sukuk as a sovereign issuances, while we equally have at least some state governments such as Osun State, such as Sokoto State, such as Katsina State and Gombe State that issued private sukuk actually. We equally witnessed Taj Bank that came and issued also 10 billion as a Mudaraba sukuk for them. Then we witnessed the family homes, as I mentioned. So with all this one, Nigeria actually in the context of Africa, we are actually becoming the leader in terms of the Islamic finance generally. Yes, we have countries like Gambia that are issuing Salam sukuk in many multiple folds, more than the numbers, far more than the numbers of Nigeria. We have Senegal, we have South Africa, we have other Togo that also issued. But in terms of the volume and in terms of the numbers so far that Nigeria did, actually, we are very good to go in terms of emerging the leader of Islamic finance in Africa. Now, talking to the international context, which is referring it to Malaysia as well as South Africa. Yes, we know that Malaysia is actually the global hub when it comes to Islamic finance. And when it comes to equally sukuk, Malaysia is equally a global hub because most of the international issuances are going to Malaysia in order to issue it there as well as to list it on their exchanges. And as a result of that, you will see a multiple currency being issued in Malaysia because of their regulatory framework they provided and welcoming idea that they also have. To the extent now, if you are looking at their complete market capitalization in the capital market, you realize that 60 to 70% are all instruments that are Sharia compliant compared to others. Yes, in Nigeria, it is only now that Securities and Exchange Commission is trying to see how they can push for at least Islamic capital market to have 25% of the market capitalization by the end of 2025. But of course,
Right.
we have a long way to go to achieve that one. But Saudi Arabia also is another market strictly that is driving the entire Middle East with respect to issuances of Sukuk and some other instrument in the capital market. Nigeria, of course, it is following. If you throw Nigeria into the global context, we are not up to even 1% of the entire market. But of course,
Right.
into Africa, we are among the leaders. So we believe it's just a matter of time, especially just a decade ago, we were just very small and we are growing rapidly. So I believe it's
Right.
something that based on the growth level, we are going to be recognized globally very soon.
Delighted that Nigeria is actually embracing this and it's moving faster than one could actually think of. So yeah, moving on, the Sukuk market has been described as one of the innovations in the Nigerian capital market post 2010. What would you like to see differently from the NGX, FMDQ, and the Debt Management Office to actually support the growth of the Sukuk market?
It has been witnessed since 2010 when actually Lotus Capital decided to come and do a private sukuk called Sukuk Al Istisna for housing project, at least opposite Osborne Foreshore Estate Gate, which it was very successful and it has already been concluded. Now,
Right.
followed by all other issuances that we have, you can see that clearly by every issuances, the market is there and investors are demanding for more and more this instrument. And I give you example, the federal government of Nigeria that came and issued in 2017. That was when people actually, they don't know what Sukuk was all about. And federal government, based on all the convincing meetings that we held with them, we told them that there was a market, there has been a market. DMO decided to say, let us test the market by coming to raise 100 billion. And when we closed the offer, we were able to get 105 billion. At least we achieved what DMO was trying to get, which is 100 billion. And in 2018, DMO said, let's try again and for another 100 billion. And at the time, people started seeing the notice of Sukuk routes being in all the 6 geopolitical zones. Therefore, the subscription moved from 100 billion to 134 billion. And 2020 is another mark that when federal government came to raise 150, 669 billion was raised, and federal government has to take only 162 and reject all the others. And 2021 again is another also success story. 250 billion federal government wanted to raise, but they get 865. So you can see that by every issuances, you will see a lot of attraction, a lot of investors that are demanding for all that aspect. So I believe the debt management office is looking for all this trend to see what they can benefit in terms of issuances of Sukuk. Yes, currently the market in terms of the macroeconomic activities are not favorable for anybody to come for a long-term issuances. So we may not see a good issuance in this particular year because of the rate may be too high. And therefore, if they lock themselves for 7 years, 10 years, as they usually do, it may be adverse to them in the next maybe 2 years or 3 years, which they've already locked themselves and they cannot change that rate. But however, we can have them in terms of coming with the timetable to issue Sukuk. With respect to that timetable, people will be so comfortable to know that if I miss this particular one, I'm going to get the next one. So debt management office can do that if timetable can come. The NGX, the FMDQ can equally play a very major role because they control the companies that are actually listed on the floor of their respective entities in respective exchanges, especially the NGX. It is actually important for those blue chips company to try and test the market and see how they can raise Sukuk. be it Dangote Cement Company, for instance, Dangote Sugar Refinery, MOA, and others, MTN, they can all issue Sukuk. And based on that, what their need, they can expand their businesses by the Sukuk proceed they can issue. It's something that can be structured, but they don't know about this one until actually the NGX, the FMDQ, the federal government, the Securities and Exchange Commission, and others actually knock their doors and enlighten them with respect to all these opportunities that they can get in the capital market, especially the Sukuk issue. So I believe they have a major role to play with respect to that aspect. When it comes to the regulation, they are doing very well in terms of the NGX and the FMDQ. They have a good regulations with respect to listing regulation of the Sukuk and others. But meanwhile, enlightenment to these blue chips companies is very important for them to understand so that they can come and raise some Sukuk. And the cost is not going to be more than what they are used to in the conventional bond or conventional papers that they've been issuing short term or long term. This is what I can say. They have a very major role.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that input. To round this up, let's look at how sustainable funding for infrastructure project has, proven challenging for states beyond Lagos, Osun, Katsina, and Sokoto. How can the other subnationals tap into the Sukuk market to address challenges in those, states?
Thank you so much for even starting with that impacting, because naturally the Sukuk is impacting investment, because there won't be any Sukuk if there is no asset to be financed. And therefore, for asset to be financed, it is going to be impacting socially as well as otherwise. And investors are also equally going to get their return according to the Sukuk they've done it. Yes, we experienced some state government that came especially to do with the public issuances, such as Lagos State and such as Osun State, that came for a public issue, meaning they went to Securities and Exchange Commission and get approval, and therefore they issued publicly. People know about that one. But we equally have Sokoto State, Katsina State, and Gombe State that issued their Sukuk, but that Sukuk they issued actually are private Sukuk, and as a result of that, they are not actually publicized to be known by people with respect to all that aspect. Now, we know that there are a lot of challenges in the state government, but however, that challenges with respect to issuance of Sukuk are all continue going to be, unless if there are some uniform regulations between Securities and Exchange Commission and the Debt Management Office. And I give you an example. With respect to Investment and Securities Act, Section 223 specifically prohibits all state governments to come to the market to raise bond or any debt instrument as long as their debt to revenue ratio is more than 50%, is 50% or more than 50%, including the instrument they are going to raise. That particular section prohibits state government from coming. Unfortunately, 2015, 2016, 2017, all state governments actually were overborrowed, especially when federal government came and did a kind of some scheme to the state government that are over leveraged. And therefore, most of the states have more than 50% debt to revenue ratio of their previous. So until that particular section of the ISA or regulations are aligned with probably the debt management section of their own issues, that is the only thing that the federal government, the other state government can come to the market to raise Sukuk. And I give you again another example is that is why you are seeing Sokoto State, Katsina State, and Gombe State that came to issue Sukuk. They refused to go for public, and therefore they refused to file their application with the Securities and Exchange Commission so that they can curtail that particular section 223 in order to go and do it. But however, they use their FAC account for the irrevocable standing payment order because they get their approval from the debt management office based on the issues attached to the regulations of the debt management office office with respect to the debt of the state government.
Right. Thank you so much for that brief yet elaborate input and insights on Sukuk and non-interest at large. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Attahiru Maccido.
Yes, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, we've heard an expert retrospect what Sukuk means and how Nigeria is leveraging Sukuk thus far on road infrastructures and how Nigeria is willing or planning to adopt other diversified, Sukuk projects. And I'm glad Nigeria is picking the pace, trying to catch up and embrace non-interest actually larger than we think. Well, with that, I say, don't forget to keep it to date with us next week on the program. Follow us on all our social media platforms displayed on the screen. Thank you for watching. I am Rahma Say Muhammad.